Hello and welcome back to another End Up Weather video. Today we are talking about Tropical Storm Lisa, the 12th named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season. And Tropical Storm Lisa, currently with maximum sustained winds of 45 miles an hour, minimum central pressure of 1,002 millibars, and moving west at 14 miles per hour, could impact areas of Central America. Here is our warnings and cone, where the National Hurricane Center is predicting this storm to maintain tropical storm force strength until Wednesday afternoon Eastern time, and then eventually transition into a hurricane before hitting Belize and then moving inland and weakening. There are hurricane watches in effect for coastlines of Belize, Guatemala, as well as some islands off the coast of Honduras. Guatemala, as well as some islands off the coast of Honduras. Anywhere in yellow is tropical storm watches, and these blue warnings here are tropical storm warnings. Here is our current forecast line showing the storm making landfall in Belize. Here is our arrival time of winds with wind speed probabilities turned on, and we can see here that this storm does have a high chance of producing tropical storm force winds across the northern coastline of Honduras, the eastern coastline of Guatemala, and the entirety of Belize. I'm going by at least 50% chance of that happening, although Guatemala is more like a 30 to 40% chance. Now, here is our key messages for this storm. Hurricane conditions are possible in the Bay Islands of Honduras early Wednesday and along the coast of Belize by Wednesday afternoon, where a hurricane watch has been issued. Tropical storm conditions are possible in portions of Jamaica, the north coast of Honduras, the Caribbean coast of Guatemala, and the southeastern Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. Localized flash flooding is expected across portions of the eastern Yucatan Peninsula, Belize, and northern Honduras, including the Bay Islands, starting late Tuesday, continuing through Thursday. There is a potential for dangerous storm surge near where the core of Lisa crosses the coast of Belize. So I'm going to put up the Spanish version of the key messages. I'm not going to read it because I will butcher it, but if you want to pause the video and read it for yourself, please go ahead. Alright, moving on here, we have our satellite imagery. So, here is Lisa on the satellite imagery. You could definitely see that over the past few hours, it has formed a lot tighter into that core. The convection is more tightly wrapped around the core. You can see that circulation right in the center there. Overall, a good-looking tropical storm, and it is relatively small. We did have those tropical storm watches in Jamaica, but Jamaica is on the outside of this storm, pretty much in the outer bands. Now, the actual core of the storm is much further away and is much smaller, containing itself pretty much within the Caribbean itself without any impacts on any coastlines, islands, or whatnot. The core is still 100% over water. So, let's take a look here at Tropical Storm Lisa's model track guidance. This is our global hurricane models. And the track really isn't the issue here until about 72 hours from now, which is after the storm makes landfall, will the storm re-enter into the Gulf of Mexico or cross over into the Eastern Pacific, or just continue the straight west movement into Mexico? That's the real thing that's up for debate here. The GEFS is showing pretty much western track. The GEPS is also on board with that western track, as well as, let's actually go to our European model, is showing that East Pacific track. Now, what really comes into play here is the intensity. Now, the National Hurricane Center is predicting this to become a hurricane, but there is a very high possibility that the storm remains a tropical storm at landfall. As you can see, that most of our models do show this remaining as a tropical storm, and only 4 of our models here are showing the storm becoming a hurricane, 3 of which before that Belize landfall. The rest are showing the storm to be at tropical storm strength at landfall, most of which being at a strong tropical storm. So let's move on here to the HWRF hurricane model. We can see Lisa here moving straight to the west, and you can see that the intensity really starts to build up here in that drop in millibar count late afternoon Tuesday, early evening Tuesday Eastern time. And as the storm starts to near Honduras and the Bay Islands, it does start to develop a lot more. 985 millibars, 982 millibars, and I believe it peaks out there before making land. Oh, 979. Look at that. 979 millibars at landfall in Belize. Now, Belize is a relatively small country. Look at the core of this storm in relation to Belize itself. A very, very small, compact core, which is going to be a benefit to many of the people in these areas, as the impacts will not be as wide, such as with Ian, or we just had the 10-year anniversary of Hurricane Sandy. These storms that have these larger centers do have more destructive outcomes just because that damage is so widespread. This storm is a lot tighter, has a much smaller core, so those damages should be limited to a smaller area, confined to a smaller area. That does not mean that these impacts will not be felt, as the peak wind speed of the storm here is right around 85 knots, which is about 90 miles per hour, and that puts you right in strong category 1. So here is the HWRF P, which is just an expanded view, and here's our total accumulated precipitation, showing that the storm is going to be a wet one. That is for sure, especially in Belize and the Yucatan Peninsula, where you can expect areas at least 6 inches of rainfall, if not more, especially in that center. The center of the storm is going to have the most rainfall, and some areas here closing in on 12 inches of rainfall. So Lisa is definitely a storm that we still need to watch here. There's a lot of things that need to happen before landfall to really make the overall forecast set in stone, but right now it is looking like, from most of our model guidance here, that Lisa will be either a strong tropical storm or a weak category 1 hurricane at landfall, and it will be mostly a confined event into Belize with those very harsh impacts comparatively to a category 1 strong tropical storm in forecast here. But we are still expecting wind speeds to be up around that 75 mile an hour mark. We're expecting rainfall at least over 6 inches in some spots, and we are expecting this storm to move fairly quickly, but it is going to impact much of Belize in probably a major storm surge way. You can see here that we do have a little bit of an inlet again, where those winds will be pushing the water on shore, so we do have to watch out for that as well. So storm surge, wind, rain, the whole package here with Lisa in a very, very small storm. But that is all the information that I have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.